You start saying no to things you used to say yes to. You react differently. You stop laughing at certain jokes. You become less available, maybe calmer, maybe less willing to put up with certain things. Maybe just less interested in performing the role people got used to. And very quickly someone says, "You're not yourself lately." Which is interesting because what they usually mean is, "You're not behaving in the way I learned to expect." I was thinking recently about a friend of mine, we'll call him Patrick, who used to party constantly. And I mean constantly. Never said no to an invitation. He was out partying hard every single weekend. Oh, and every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday too, if the opportunity presented itself. His motto was, "I party till I die." Then he met someone, and gradually he stopped going out so much. And before you make any assumptions, no, his new girlfriend did not lock him up in a room and forbade him to leave the house. It wasn't like that at all. It was just that Patrick truly enjoyed being with her. More than standing in some loud bar, with good old Kevin reminiscing again about the time he got so drunk he ended up in a ditch somewhere. And when Patrick stopped going out so much, his friends got worried. "You're not yourself anymore. You never come out. What's wrong with you?" And maybe they were genuinely concerned. That's possible. But it also made me wonder something. When they told Patrick he wasn't himself anymore, how did they know the party animal was his real self? Based on what? Consistency? Repetition? Familiarity? Because we human beings tend to do this thing where we confuse the version we're used to with the authentic version. But those are not always the same thing. Sometimes a personality is genuine, but sometimes it's adaptive, shaped by our environment. Sometimes it's about survival. Sometimes it's loneliness with good lighting and loud music. When you repeat a behavior again and again, over time it starts becoming your identity. That doesn't necessarily mean it reflects who you deeply are, but it becomes familiar, recognizable, easy to anticipate to you and to everyone else. And people love knowing what to expect when it comes to other people. The brain loves predictability. A new or different you requires more effort from everyone, whereas an identity that's already locked in is much easier to deal with, much less figuring out to do. If you've always been the funny one, or the reliable one, the smart one, the difficult one, the perfectionist, the party animal, then everyone around you learns the pattern. And they start expecting certain things, certain behaviors from you. And you end up expecting those things from yourself too. This pull toward what feels familiar is the part I think a lot of people underestimate. We don't always choose what makes us happy. And very often we choose what we're used to. Used to doing, used to being, never mind what it entails. Familiar pain is weirdly comforting because it's known. And I think a lot of us live by the concept of better the devil you know. Change can feel really unsettling, even if the change is objectively healthier, because now the brain has a problem. The map it had been relying on no longer matches what's happening. And when I say the brain, I mean yours, but also other people's brains. Identity is not only something you carry internally, part of your identity also exists inside other people's nervous systems, which sounds dramatic, but think about it. People remember you. They anticipate you. They store a specific version of you in their memory, especially family. Oh, families are incredible at freezing people in time. You can be 42 years old, emotionally evolved, paying taxes, healing your nervous system, and then spend 3 hours with your siblings, and suddenly you become the same irritated 12-year-old who once threw yogurt across the kitchen because someone told them to chill. That's seriously impressive. And it's not because siblings are evil. It's simply that people stop updating their perception of you. They interact with the familiar version because it requires less recalibration. And when you're trying to change, people can tend to pull you back toward the role they recognize, sometimes unconsciously, and sometimes very consciously. If, for example, the familiar version of you works better for them, your change can inconvenience people. If you stop overgiving, the people who benefited from your overgiving may see that as selfishness. If you become less available, people may experience it as rejection. If you stop performing happiness all the time, people may think something's wrong. And maybe nothing is wrong. Maybe it's just that you stop performing. There are also some people who, when you change, immediately assume that you're lost and their role is to save you. They make confident statements about you. You used to be fun. You've changed. This is not you. Because, of course, they know you better than you know yourself. And they probably mean well. But notice how it's actually not really about your well being and more about restoring familiarity, about returning you to predictability. So, change can be a real pain in the ass for you, your brain, and the people around you. But if that's all it was, just annoying, then it wouldn't be that big a deal, would it? Unfortunately, change is much more than just bothersome. Change is also scary. Oh, Anna, please tell us something we don't already know. Okay, you may already know that change is scary, fine. But do you know why? I'll tell you why. Change is scary because it puts you face to face with uncertainty about your future. It's not only your behavior that suddenly feels unfamiliar, it's your whole future that becomes uncertain. And yes, technically, the future is uncertain for everyone anyway, unless you own a time machine. Okay, fine. But you have to admit that if you've been the same person for many years, you usually have a rough idea of where your life is heading. You know the general direction your identity is pulling you in. If we take the party animal example again, if you are a yes to every party type of person, like my friend Patrick was, then you can more or less picture your future. More parties, more nights out, more of the same. Your future feels predictable. But when you're thinking about changing, you start wondering, what's on the other side of change? What will my life look like? What will happen to my relationships with other people? Let's face it, you can be an optimist all you want, but in reality, there is a risk that things will not go so well if you change. Your friends no longer enjoying hanging out with you because you've changed. That can happen. And depending on the scale of the change you're wanting to make and the environment you grew up in, your family disowning you is also a potential consequence. And I'm saying this because I recently listened to someone who was talking about his parents disowning him after a career change he made. They hadn't spoken to him in 5 years just because he'd left a successful contracting business to become a spiritual counselor. So, yes, your whole circle of familiar people is at stake. And that's big. Change is a threat to our relationships with people who have been around us, maybe forever, and therefore a threat to a future we'd quietly gotten used to picturing and which had all those same people in it. Now, despite all this, you may still choose to go ahead with the change because you feel deep inside that's what will serve you best. Good for you. Just be aware that there may come a rather uncomfortable moment, what I call the limbo period, where the old identity no longer feels right, but the new one still carries uncertainty with it. And so you're basically standing between versions of yourself. And that space sucks. That's where you may be tempted to say, oh, f it, I'll just go back to who I was. It wasn't so bad after all. But what if you did this instead? Allow yourself to feel the instability that comes with not knowing what happens next. Remind yourself that it's only temporary. And most importantly, that it is not a sign that you need to go back to the familiar version of you. Conscious change. That's all it is.